Booyah. 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 Every year, we hear the same Martin Luther King Jr. We hear the same quote or two, a picture frozen in time, a man made sterile and safe by history. And I'm guilty of that in my younger years, of course. And I preached um, MLK Sunday sermons before, but I've always made sure to not make it the sterile version of what we've been used to. But they remember the dream, they remember the marches, they remember the hope, but they forget the tension. They forget the disruption. They forget that black folks, we it is like we existed during slavery, we disappeared, and came back during the civil rights movement, and disappeared and came back whenever. But they forget that we've been here. But when it comes to Dr. King, they forget that he was one of the most unpopular men in America when he was alive. Let me say that again. He was one of the most unpopular men in America during his time. If you listen to this live, welcome. Welcome, my good friend, Liz Martin. Welcome to all of you who are listening now. I am Gerald with RGM Collective. And it's interesting. I'm as I'm talking, a tear just ran down my eye. I'm not going to cam up, but they forget he was surveyed. They forget he was called a radical, even by black folk. They forget he was told to wait, to be quiet, to be more respectful. You have your time. Black people will have their time. They remember the parts of King that made them comfortable. They forgot the depression. They forgot the thoughts of suicide because of the pressure of being the face of your people and having millions of people, the weight of that on your back. They forget the parts that demanded change. And Liz Martin is quite right. He was threatened like public enemy number. He was treated like public enemy number one, and so was his family. This goes back to um, the social expense risk. What they remember, um, they remember the parts that make them comfortable. And if you know, my grandpup Gigi just walked in. Gigi, I'm talking about MLK. Okay. Um, Today we're going to talk about. We're not talking about the statue. We're not talking about the man. We are talking about the movement and the parts of his legacy that keeps getting erased over and over on purpose. So let's talk about what they remember and what they try hard to forget. And it's there. It's there. It's in the books. It's there if you listen really beyond the I have a dream. speech. If you listen to, I mean, there are other aspects of it as well. So the thing about MLK is there's a safe MLK versus the real MLK. And again, and I know our generation and younger, we need visuals, we need pictures, but I don't have that today. We're just going to have a conversation. And most of it is freestyle. I have talking points, but most of it is freestyle. Yes, sweetie. And so the thing about the safe MLK versus the real MLK is that he has been turned into a symbol. He's been turned into a symbol that sells burgers, that sells fries, that sells TV shows, that makes everybody comfortable, kumbaya. But what has been missed is the threat, the threat of what he actually, his memory actually represents. His quotes get recycled without context. You know me. Information without context is propaganda. And when you hear about MLK, he's frozen in 1963. He's frozen in 1963 on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, if you go to DC, you'll see Lincoln Memorial. You'll be told about MLK. There's talk about him and all of that. But what's missed is the why. Why was there a need for MLK? And is that need still there? And the inform and the cold hard fact is, once he was gone, he became agreeable because he couldn't respond. Now I want to do a I want to do a question to those in the chat, and even those who are listening now or listening later or whatnot. How many of you were taught about MLK beyond I Have a Dream? And again, for you who are here live, welcome Anti Afro. How many of you were taught about MLK beyond I Have a Dream? And that's a question in the chat right now. How many of you were taught about MLK beyond I Have a Dream? Shout out to keeping it plain. Yeah, the question is how many of us were taught about MLK beyond I Have a Dream? And the truth is, I didn't learn about MLK beyond I Have a Dream until 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 wait for it, until college and until I I was at a church, the church I am in now. And these are predominantly white spaces. And a little of that could be, a little of that could be, I don't know. I'm looking at Living Queen, and she said she had to teach herself more about MLK. And I started reading his letters. I started I started reading his biographies about him, and then I started to see the man beyond the myth, the pressure, the pain, the depression, the times when he would lock himself in the room and wouldn't eat, would stay in the bed. I mean, you are carrying the weight of the world on your back. You have people trying to kill you and your family. I think a lot of times when we see leaders, we forget that are these people are human. And keeping the plane said he knew his birth name was Michael, not Martin. Liz Martin says primary school teaches us only a tiny bit about MLK, right? Or Black American history. They taught us just enough to make themselves. It wasn't about us to make themselves feel comfortable. So the truth is, we didn't learn much about MLK beyond "I Have a Dream." So this is what they remember. That they remember the dream speech. They remember the marches. They remember the singing, the unity imagery, nonviolence as politeness. That's the thing. Nonviolence at at as nonviolence as uh nonviolence as a tactic is true. Nonviolence is not just standing and smiling as people hit you. That's not all about nonviolence. It's more than just that. They remember MLK as calm, soft-spoken, universally loved. Because again, all of this separates others from their part in oppression. So again, it's this safe MLK, you know. Anti says none of that is surprise. MLK was a chain smoker, just like Jackie O. Kennedy, the former first lady. I mean, I believe it. And I believe all the other stuff, the affairs and all of that. He's a man. He was a man. But what they remember is hope, clean, clean, straight up hope. But they don't want to talk about the cost of hope. And I think the why, the why was there a need for MLK? And I'm very interactive. Even when I teach, I'm interactive. Liz Martin says he literally gave everything to the progress of our people. When I learned that he was donating his own money and resources to the cause, I must admit I was stunned. Yes, it was known that he was hated by many. He was hated by people on both sides. Other leaders in the Black community hated MLK, hated Dr. King. He was taking their shine. Others feared that he would bring more harm to Black folks. But the thing that people miss is that his cause was not just for Black folks. It was a cause for everybody, and not in the way that people think. So as we continue to think about this, about what they remember, let's talk about what they forget. As AAS was saying, He was hated. Oh, he was hated. He was hated. He was deeply unpopular when he was alive. He was surveyed. He was watched by the FBI. He was labeled a radical. He was labeled a communist, an agitator. I don't think McDonald's don't tell you that, do they? I never got the McDonald's celebrating MLK. I never get that, you know. They celebrate MLK while they sell you food that gives that fuels high blood pressure and all this and diabetes and all this other stuff. Oh gosh. And the moderates, other, black moderates, white moderates told him to slow down. You're doing too much. And the thing that people forget that he was assassinated. He was assassinated while supporting labor workers. That right there got that right there added. N- And not just the fact that he was against the Vietnam War, but the fact that he was trying to unite labor workers. And not just labor workers, he was really keeping an eye on poverty. He was trying to unite Americans who were facing poverty. I mean, crazy. Funny how people celebrate him now, but they would have called him all kind of names back in the day. And right, he also didn't focus on making people like him. See, that's the thing too. He did not focus on people liking him. And I agree with Lisbon. The advocating for poor people is what ultimately led to his assassination. Because again, you think about that time. You had the Vietnam War, right? The Vietnam War, where the weight of that war, the sacrifices of that war, mainly came through the lives of poor people. Those were the ones who were the bodies that were sacrificed in the Vietnam War. They were poor people, the sons and daughters of poor people, black and brown folks. And if you happen to survive the Vietnam War, emotionally, you were never the same. I had uncles, and even my father served. My father did 2 tours in Vietnam. All right, Anti, I'm gonna time you out in a minute. Don't do it. Don't do it. We talked about MLK today. You said diabetes at McDonald's. Okay, I see you. I see you. And I think that's the thing. And I learned this in predominantly white spaces, libraries and colleges and churches. You said it, not me. Okay, AAS. Andrea, I might have to call your full name. All right, Andrea Michelle Stewart. Better cut it out. And again, we're just having a conversation about the legacy and the myth of MLK. And again, the funny part, not funny part, but I think one of the cool parts about this is I have preached on MLK Sunday, and my goodness, I steered away from the "I Have a Dream," and I've concentrated on the sacrifice of MLK. I mean, you notice after MLK and Malcolm X was assassinated, right? That changed how so-called black leaders operated. You saw a difference because they didn't want to take the risk of losing their lives as well. Goes back to my social expense risk. There's a cost when it comes to advocating for others. Yes, the speech is the yeah, the I Have a Dream speech is definitely epic. It's definitely epic. All parts of it. I mean, you cannot deny it. But the the speech that he gave in was it Memphis before he was assassinated, that speech was more profound than I Have a Dream. You know, that speech where he said, and you know what? It wasn't. He did an interview where he said that the dream became a nightmare. That interview. Oh my gosh, I didn't see that interview till I was an adult, and it just changes your whole perspective about the civil rights movement. This is after the "I Have a Dream" speech, and and I remember hearing many of the leaders during that time speaking on the aftermath of the civil rights movement. And I remember hearing Dorothy Height, Dr. Dorothy Height, talking about the impact of the of of integration. And they talked about how their goal was not their goal was to integrate public services. Their goal was to integrate, those services. Their goal was not to strip the Black community of its resources. And that's what happened after integration. Once Black homeowners or Black families start moving um, they start moving into neighborhoods that were that were not for them, white families start to leave. You had white flight, right? And during the 70s and 80s, you start to have Black middle class flight. So you had white flight, then you had Black middle class flight, and what you were left with were communities that were stripped of their resources. Their shops closed. Even in the Black community, you had churches that were staples in the community, and people lived in that community. Then you start to see people that once lived in that community moved out from that community, but still came to church. And then eventually, many Black churches started to leave the Black community. That was a byproduct of integration, and that was not what they wanted to happen. Anti-Afro says he galvanized people for the march on Washington with essentially no violence. Yeah, and the one of the greatest stories I've heard about the march on Washington and his speech, if it wasn't for Dorothy Height, the "I Have a Dream" speech that he delivered would not have happened because he was only supposed to have a small amount of time, right? And according to Dr. Dorothy Height, and in fact, other people who were there, there was an argument argument about who should get most of the time. And at that time, MLK was the youngest, and he was slotted to get the least amount of time. And the men were arguing, the leaders at the time were arguing there were 4 or 5 different civil rights organizations, all led by men. At that time, Dorothy Height, she was over, what was the name of the women's? It was the women's organization, the Black Women's Organization. And at the time, the men could not agree on who should have have the most time. And so they asked Dr. Dorothy Height, and she was quiet, and she said, you know, basically she said that MLK was new, had a fresh perspective, people excited about him. We should let him have this amount of time. And he didn't. he he was not prepared for the extra time. So a lot of the I Have a Dream speech was ad lib from other speeches that he had. And it worked out beautifully. All right. Let's see. Okay. This is a get this is a great pivot. AAS says stripped of resources was is deliberate. It is. It is to the most. Yeah, let's talk about that. Um, the goal remains to replace and regulate us with every other group. Now that's a good point. That is a you said was it deliberate? Is that is a great point. Um, it didn't help though. It did not help losing the black wealthy. Well, I mean sometimes the wealthy, but the black middle class. Because you think about it, when I remember, I again, I'm old. I remember when this happened. It was the late '70s, early '80s when you had the black middle class flight, and it all centers around the school, school districts too, the public school district. People go where school districts are thriving, and it just so happened that many of the schools that were thriving were in South Kansas City and in the suburbs. Had families that could move, they moved. And when they moved, they took, when I say resources, not just money, but also people, also mentorship, also people that you can look up to. That was stripped away. And I agree, he would have ascended. He would have ascended anyway, either way. Yes, ma'am. So as we still discuss this, I think about ooh, respectability politics. Respectability. Respectability. I remember we took a tour at one of the HBCUs, and Little Palmer was all set to go there. And then I think wasn't the president, it was another person in leadership. She starts speaking about, yeah, when you come to class, you're not gonna wear any, sandals or either flip flops, or when you come to class, you're not wearing jeans. You have to dress up for class. You have to do this, do that. You speak in complete sentences. I mean, she was doing all of this, and Little Palmer says that's respectability politics. That's you know telling people how to dress and making people feel comfortable. In front of white folks. Yeah, not buying that. And I think that's the part that people forget. MLK criticized white moderates more than extremists. And there's a reason why he did that. His letter from Birmingham, Birmingham jail. Oh my gosh, he criticized white moderates, and I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you. And white moderates have told me this too. Sometimes the white moderates can be worse than those who are in your face racists. I mean, that's why the movie Get Out is so profound. That's why the movie Get Out. And I had a Get Out moment one time. I was visiting one of my children had a friend that was white, a new friend, and they were having a play date. And so I go, we go over to this person's house. The kid was a new kid in the school, and I talked on the phone to the father. I guess I sound white over the phone. I don't know. Uh, so I'm talking to the father, and when we show up, he has this look on his face, like he was not expecting a black family. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay." And sometimes you wanna try to make other people feel comfortable, right? And you try to forget. They're like, "Ah." So we start talking, and of course, this was during the Obama time. He was trying to explain to me how much he supported Obama. His family always, were liberal and gave all this money and all the time and all this stuff. And then when he's talking, he was like, and he kind of stopped himself. But he almost said he didn't know that there were black children at the school, which was BS because school was that school was very diverse. And I knew what time it was then. But again, white moderates were criticized by MLK more than he did extremists. I mean, let that sink in, man. I mean, because again, you're doing all this, I support you, blah, 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 Black Lives Matter this and Black Lives Matter that. And then when you see me in person, you behave a certain way. Oh, Anti is talking about one of my favorite people. Yes, 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 yes. I know it sounds weird. Lyndon Johnson was compelled to the Civil Rights Act. Johnson made it clear that we were to get I want to debate that as little as you could possibly give them that remained applicable to recently. I've seen where that was proven false. But I mean, I would understand, but I would understand how that could be seen as, seen like that. But I've seen places where that was proven false. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm definitely um I'm definitely very interested in conversations about Lyndon Johnson and him being compelled to sign the Civil Rights Act of '64. And a lot of that concentration was not just the civil rights, but also eliminating poverty. And that's one of the huge reasons why, and I hate to use the term fanboy, but I'm definitely um, I'm definitely when it comes to Lyndon B. Johnson. Um, yeah, see, I don't agree with that. I don't. Johnson was adamant. I don't always have someone to look down the event illegals to. See, I don't. From what I read about Lyndon B. Johnson, I have to disagree with that to a certain extent. Um, he was a yeah, I have to see I have to hear that for myself. And then the context of it. Yeah, he was a product of his time, but there were some things that um that that caused him to lean to addressing um the issues of the Civil Rights Act and also trying to eliminate poverty. Because growing up, Lyndon B. Johnson, his family was wealthy before the you know the great crash of the Depression, and it's like automatically they went to bed rich and they woke up poor, and he remembered how that felt being poor, and that carried uh, and that carried through him. You know he carried that throughout his adult life and in presidency. Because I think one of the things about the addressing of poverty, and now the name is slipping, but during the Kennedy administration, there was a policy that Kennedy was trying to implement that was addressing poverty, but it was only in the Appalachian Mountains, and I forgot the name of it. I forgot the name of it. And once he was assassinated, LBJ took that a little further. You also said, I also focus on policy and whether the person stands behind it. I don't need to like every single thing about any leader. Yeah, I mean, he definitely stood behind that policy. I mean, in fact, a lot of the policy, a lot of the programs that he created then were are still here. Like, oh my gosh, before and after school care. I think even Jesus, now I can't think. I can recite this in class. I can recite all the programs and everything. Head Start, Job Corps. I mean, a lot of stuff that he created is still around. I mean, it's still being fought. Uh, but I can't even think about it. All right, so let me get off of LBJ. Um, but anyway, respectability was used as a control tactic. And I think that's why people get it confused because they also think that the 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 nonviolence is about respectability, but it's not. I mean, the main tactic of non of sorry, not responsibility. The main tactic about nonviolence is when you have a group of people who are peaceful, and then you have another group of people who are violent and attacking them. It was, you know, those who are on the outside looking in, they're going to see this group of people that are marching quiet, not even quiet sometimes, but not, you know, violent. And then you got this whole group of other people just going nuts. And that's going to make the group watching feel a certain way. All right. So we're still talking about the legacy and myth of MLK. Now, the whole idea of the respectability politics is and then and now we support your cause, just not your timing. And it's the same language used today against protesters, against queer folks, against activists. That's one of the reasons why the Black Lives Matter movement was created. Because again, in a lot of these different movements, it is still male dominated. It is still, you know, cisgender dominated. So if we look at She says, "No matter how I feel, I'm not going to put myself in a position to be arrested and certainly not shot." See, that's the and see, that's the thing. I'm not going to put myself in a position to be arrested and certainly not shot. And again, it goes back to the social expense risk because there are some people who feel differently. And you can take out the word president and put in social issue. No matter how I feel about any social issue, I'm not going to put myself in a position to be arrested. And see, I remember, and and maybe that's not fair. Maybe it's different between supporting a president and supporting an issue. An issue like, let's say, marriage equality, an issue like police brutality, or what's happening in Minnesota and all over our country with ICE and the protests. Now, back there was a time when I would not care about being arrested and being shot and all that. Well, I'm still going to use the word cis. Man rule the world. They would never change. That word cis is abominable. Yeah, to certain people. All right. So when we look at what's happening today, ask yourself, and even you can even say it. You could type it in the chat. Right, right. Who gets labeled too loud? Who gets labeled too angry? Who gets labeled too loud and too angry? Who's told to wait? Because think about it. That was the same thing. Black folks were told to wait. Black folks were told too loud, too angry. Black women are told they're too loud, too angry. And again, these are all my thoughts, man. These are all my thoughts. And you know, and you think about the things that are erased about MLK. The Poor People's Campaign is rarely talked about. The Poor People's Campaign. That was as Liz was saying, that was the movement that ultimately led to his assassination. The Poor People's Campaign. Think about that. It wasn't all this flowery talk, you know. And you know, the one thing that gets erased and out of context is the I yeah it is the idea about it's not about a person's race, it's about a person's character. That's bullshit. It is about race and it's about character as well. This whole idea about I don't see race, well, get the hell out of here. I think what people mean is I see your race, but uh, your race has no importance over how I see you and how I treat you. That's what you should say. You shouldn't say things like "I don't see color." As soon as you say "I don't see race," I'm done. I'm tuning you out because I want you to see my race. I'm proud of who I am as a black man. When you say you don't see my color, you don't see my race, then you don't see me. That's erasure. That color blindness bullshit doesn't fly. That was that was not what MLK was all about. It wasn't about this color blindness. Yeah. I mean, This idea about little black boys and little white girls, you know, little black kids, little white kids, little Hispanic kids playing together on the swing. But then when they go home, there's policies that are impacting their lives. Deal with that too. Colorblind, yeah, but dig into their social media posts. Right. Guess what you're going to find? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That when people started, when people start coming to me and and start, trying to, I had a friend in college that was black. Like I don't give a don't tell me about your black friend in college just because you see me, I'm black. That doesn't no. What are you doing now? What are you doing now? I mean, we start looking at some of his views that are ignored. Yeah, you can recite I have a dream, but they forget about his anti-capitalism views, right? Right? They forget about his anti-capitalism views. I mean, think about this. During during 2019, 2020, the world is shut down, right? People losing jobs because of COVID, all kind of stuff is happening. But some people, their wealth doubled. People like Jeff Bezos, his wealth doubled. Amazon as a company added more wealth. Facebook added more wealth. Apple added more wealth. Microsoft added more wealth. That's capitalism. That part of MLK is forgotten. His opposition to the Vietnam War and why he opposed the Vietnam War erased. Him analyzing racism as a structural system was erased. Again, his analyzing racism as a structural system was erased. People love to just focus on individual racism, racism as an individual trait, but they ignore how the government, they ignore how policy fueled racism and still fuels racism today. And that's the thing that people forget about MLK. He wasn't just focused on the individual racism, he was looking at the structural system, institutionalized racism that people love to erase. They love Dr. King's words until you apply those words to them. Woo! They love Dr. King's words until you apply those words to, excuse me, to them. Who them? Who them? you know, you know who them is. Yeah, we support Doc. That's the crazy part about it is you have a capitalism. You have a capitalist corporation like McDonald's celebrating the legacy of Dr. King. If you were really celebrating the legacy of Dr. King, you would get free food. And the truth is, the crazy, not the crazy part about it. One of the things that tells you what type of time that we're in um, is that many of the people who would have criticized Dr. King back then are now supporting Dr. King, and they're using his words to shut down conversations about policing, They're using his convers they're using his quotes to shut down conversations about poverty, about queer liberation, and about systemic racism. When you have organizations like Turning Point, and when you have Trump using the words of MLK, uh, that's a problem. And then this is, I know people support Trump and all of that, but you really yeah. Okay, there's a dog barking. I think Gigi got heated about our Dr. King talk. Um, so answer this question: if MLK, if Dr. King was alive today, who would be calling him too extreme? If Dr. King was alive today, I mean, he'd be like 100 something years old. If Dr. King was alive today, who would be calling him extreme, too extreme? I mean, he'd be pretty pissed about how his protege turned out. His protege, Jesse Jackson, turned out. And I think, Jesse Jackson and a lot of other the younger ones saw how he was assassinated, and they was like, I don't want no part of that. So you know, it took things a little differently. So if Dr. King was alive today, who would be calling him too extreme? Seriously, I often think about that. Who would be calling him extreme today? I mean, because his work still continues. I mean, there's still a legacy. His family is still holding up his foundation and his words, and they do strike back at people who misuse his words. Peace to KRP. Welcome. Keeping it plain says Gerald. I think he would have figured oh figured Mr. Jackson out. Yeah, that was. But Jesse Jackson has so much promise, man. He has so much. He has so much problem, but I think he used he used his influence to bring him wealth. That's the thing. Every time he would go to a company and tell them, your policies are wrong. You need to hire more black folks. You need to do this. The first thing you do is you hire me or hire my company. You know, any money that these organizations or companies gave to the black community, Jesse Jackson got a piece of it. Same thing with Al Sharpton too. Now, Dr. King, he did get money, he got paid too, but it wasn't these kind of tactics. It wasn't those kind of tactics. So to bring it all back as we close up, because I want to make sure I take advantage of this federal holiday in the way that it should be taken advantage of, and that means supporting the legacy of Dr. King. The thing about his legacy is that we need to take it back. It right now is watered down, it's whitewashed, it's made to be comfortable. But MLK's legacy was about confrontation. It wasn't about making people comfortable. It was about confrontation. the way that he is remembered selectively is definitely a form of dishonesty. It's a form of revictimization, really. It's a form of trying to make the legacy disappear. And the idea is honoring him means continuing the work, not sanitizing it. I mean, I get the effort of using MLK, using the day to go out and do good things for other people. I've seen some communities use it to go and clean up a neighborhood, or do this or do that. I get it, but that's not really what his legacy was about. That's not what it was about. I agree with keeping the plane. He says, "I hear you, Gerald, but I understand that it's a capitalist system which we live under." Well, it's part capitalism, but there's some other parts of it too, because there's other there's and I forgot again. I'm still asleep, but we don't. It's not a total capitalist system. There's also parts of it where some corporations are owned by the federal government. We give a lot of tax breaks and all this and this and that. But I do get it. But isn't there an opportunity for some kind of a balance, though? I mean, couldn't there be some kind of a balance that I don't know, you shouldn't have one or two families that have most of the country's wealth. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, KRP. I talked about that. How they freeze MLK in 1963, and they break it every year, and then freeze them back again. Yeah, a time to break silence. Yes, yeah, that and again, the Poor People's Movement led to his assassination. And I mean, because again, if we look back, America was a powder keg ready to blow. You had you had still issues with racism. You had the Vietnam War. You had poor people like this is too much, and then you had with the Poor People's Campaign. You also had labor, the labor issue. Yeah, I mean, times are bad when you're asking Charlie Pride to bring bring black and white people together. Charlie Pride was a black country singer. That's a whole nother story. Uh, yeah, so many people don't know about Time to Break Silence, but they know about I Have a Dream, right? And again, the whole. I mean, this was like off script. I mean, I did have some talking points written down, but the whole idea was to look at the legacy of the myth of MLK and talk about what they remember and what they forget. And I'm always trying to do things. I don't, there wasn't a solo isolated reason. I mean, I guess, but yeah, I agree. But him trying to unite poor people in America and speaking out against the Vietnam War, that didn't help though. That didn't help. That didn't help at all. You know. But I get it. But I think the thing that matters the most, and I want to look at is how are we talking about MLK today? Are we allowing his legacy to be just frozen in 1963? And it's a shame that many of us that what we remember and what we were taught about MLK was frozen in 1963. And I remember the first time I preached on a MLK Sunday. I think I did talk about LBJ as well on that in that sermon. I sure did. And I remember when I started to preach on MLK Sundays, I did a like one summer I did a deep dive because I wanted to be prepared, not just to do the "I have a dream" speech, but to do a but to do a sermon where I'm challenging everybody, and I'm also showing the human side of MLK. I don't think most people freeze MLK. The media, yeah, the media does that. The education system does that too. As a people, we're much more intelligent than that. I get it, but again, I would say the media, even black media, uh, some black media freeze MLK today. I haven't turned on the TV, so I haven't seen any of the commercials. I haven't seen any of the. I haven't seen any of that. I think with this administration, there'll be less of that probably. Um, KRP says economic justice for Black people and the stance MLK took against Vietnam War. I would say those were the leading the cause of his assassination. Yeah. Think about prior to 1965, push for a lot of Blacks abroad to come to the US because government didn't want them here. Right. Right. Yeah. This whole, I don't know. I get it. I do. I get it. I get it. I mean, and there's so much that's been lost over time. Um, but I think that this is a good stopping point. Uh, I, I I don't try to avoid politics, but I try to avoid politics. I'm not the in your face person that I used to be. Uh, it's not because I fear retaliation or pushback. It's that I don't have the energy for that anymore. Because if you know me, you know that there's certain issues I'm passionate about, and I will just go, 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 go. And I love what I do now. I love educating. I love educating the next go, 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 goers, right? You know, I that's where my energy is at now, is educating that politics has its place. Yeah, you have to have the right kind of structure to talk to do it, you know, because now, man, people, you say some things, people will, you know, it's not like how the Umar Johnson sector or even the plant lady try to go after your job. This is totally different. They'll go to the funders. They'll go to yeah. The government still doesn't want black folk from other countries here. That has never changed, but they do want every other group here to replace us. See, I don't know about replacing us, but there is a push to get yeah, yeah, and I guess I don't know the next question uh would be where we go next. What do we do? And I know we don't need uh, uh I wouldn't say we need that one person again. I think what we need is we need more voices united. Um, as we look at today's climate, because after we talk about what people forget, we have to remember what parts are being forgotten? Because the way that MLK gets remembered, it tells us a lot about what kind of distance people are trying to put from what's happening now. And as I said before, we're still taught to be patient, to be respectful. Um, no, it's the same thing. They're harassing worshipers, churches again. Didn't you experience the same? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It That's a good point. I mean, you know, um, if we talk about if if you feel comfortable with something, no. If you have a certain topic or a certain issue that you feel very strongly about, I come from the mindset of speak out about it. Speak out about it. And I've always spoke out on certain issues. So in 2016, probably 2015, I don't know, earlier than that, a friend of mine told me about this person named Dr. Umar Johnson. And I saw that he was speaking in some school in Ohio. I read and listened to some of the things he was saying, and I started sending out emails to other organizations. And then he was banned from that. And then he came to Kansas City, I think 215, 260, I don't remember. And a friend of mine got into a heated conversation with him. And I saw what happened to her after that heated conversation. After that heated conversation, she started to get emails. She started to get, comments. People were looking for her. They were trying to find out who she was, all of that. And she was like, you know what? These people are crazy. I'm out. And I was like, you're out? I'm in. And this was like 216, 217. And so I started, you know, finding out more about Umar Johnson. I started, watching his videos, and I start like doing something I call righteous trolling. And trolling is not attacking people, antagonizing them, lying about people. It's just about changing the conversation. And so I would go on his page and other people's pages too that were hateful. And that's how I got a couple of interviews on some some big platforms because of the righteous trolling. And so it ended up people started finding what I'm saying interested. Next thing I know it, I'm doing Facebook lives. And then after that, shout out to Mashonda. Shout out to that. I'm shout out to that. After that, I started doing YouTube videos. So in 2017, I practiced what I've always preached. If you feel comfortable about something, not comfortable, if you feel like you want to speak out about something, do it. And so I started speaking out about Umar Johnson in 2017. I didn't know about any kind of Umar Johnson sector. There was no so-called name of this space, but I started making videos about Umar in 17. And then along the way, if I saw a person making a pro Umar video, I would go on and leave a comment. I wouldn't bash or anything like that. And so it started to grow 17, 18. It started to grow more and more and more. I mean, it really wasn't a them versus us because I really like just maybe one or two people I would go on their platforms, but it really wasn't a whole lot of people making pro Umar videos. There really was they really were not making pro Umar videos, but they were making anti whoever was talking about Umar videos. And so that's how Dita Rail Dempsey Spears came across. Dempsey Spears, and I might get the years mixed up, but Dempsey Spears made some videos going after certain people that were mentioned by Umar. And he was saying, nobody would debate him, and he was calling us out by name. And so, despite people telling me not to, I reached out to Dempsey. I took his, because I did not know that he was off the way he was. And so, I mean, I'm thinking I'm just having a normal conversation. I didn't realize that this whole YouTube experience was about content. And so I get on that interview with him, felt that it was going nowhere, and I was just trying to be polite and all of that. Well, after that, things just started to change. Um, the beginning of 2020, like the summer, it's just things started getting really more combative during 2019. The beginning of 2020 was when Umar made his in his ass speech in their ass. Prior to that, there were threats being made toward people. Anytime Umar spoke my name or anti-name, we would get tons and tons of responses, right? And at that time, I really wasn't going back and forth with Umar detractors. I had this one thing with Monty Woodgrain. It was petty. Um, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious at the time. Many of you who were around then, I think you know about that as well. You were here. I think some of you were here when that was happening. And again, it wasn't like really threatful. It wasn't like he was threatening to shoot or anything like that. It wasn't the way things are now. It wasn't anything like that. Uh, Things started to shift and change. Um, and I do want to say too, there was the whole Nelson Nobles incident. That was the first time that I really um, reported somebody because the message that he left was threatening. He was terrible. So reported him to his employer. Right. And then in 2020, like January 2020, 2020 was Umar did his I'm in your ass speech. Shout out to Mashawn tonight. Thank you. Uh, and after that, people started to like, who are these people he's naming? And no, he did not. Umar didn't dox my name. My name was already out. Same thing with on Andrea. Our names were already out. Umar didn't dox my name. I think he publicly put my employer out there and my home address. Um, but no, Umar didn't publicly dox me. He didn't publicly put my name. My name was already out there. I always signed my name to stuff. I wasn't worried about my name being out there or anything like that. I wasn't expecting family and other people to be targeted. Again, this goes back to I'm not comparing myself to MLK, but I'm saying is I saw an issue, I spoke out about it, right? And I was speaking out about Umar Johnson. And not just that, I was making sure that he wouldn't go around lying and harming people using the title of therapist. And, you know, it was just a mess. So once that 2020 changed everything because people wanted to get clout. We had desperate people like a Shakim Harris and other people who used attacking people to make money. It was just a mess, and it all started because I spoke out against Umar Johnson. Because I spoke out against Umar Johnson, this is where we're at today. Yeah, there was no the only one who initiated doxing with co-conspirator is Mona, the Social Security bandit. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. It was, and when I hear people tell about things that happened, they leave all of that out. That many of them were complacent to what was happening to other people. And if you came to the sector, Umar Johnson sector, after 2021, you come in 2022, 2023, you really don't know what's going on. And you hearing people who are claiming to be the victims, who were actually the ones who initiated and stood by while real harm was happening. And many, yeah. And so again, I I think as we circle back to this day, when I think about MLK, I think about the sacrifice that comes with speaking truth to power. That's the reason why I'm working on this idea called social expense risk. The price you pay for going against the grain. And shout out to Mashonda. She said, I've been listening to Anti Afro since 2017 and Rev G since 2018. A lot of the Umar sector was jealous of the two of you when Umar was actually giving you an anti threats. They wanted the clout. Right. And there are other names that I won't mention who are still angry today that we were mentioned. And I said, you know what? You can have it. You can have being mentioned by Umar. Right. And again, if you were not here during that, and that's the crazy part. A lot of those people were here at that time, and they know what actually went down and what actually happened. So there is a price to be paid for speaking your truth. I mean, because again, Umar Johnson had his supporters. They would like send me letters and all this other stuff. Um, but it didn't change until you had, certain people who came on the scene in 2019 and 2020, and they viewed it as content. But I mean, like that song, that that song that came out, that Reverend I'm Sorry song, that was made during 2021 after all these attacks on us. Shout out to Jeremy. Welcome, my friend. Mashana been here since the beginning. Sector started with both of you, and every live stream they were mentioning AFW. They wouldn't have content if it wasn't for anti-Afro and Rev. We were the center of that sector. Without any anti-Afro or Rev G, there would not be a Umar Johnson sector. And I'm not saying that to be. I mean, where were they content at? And even now, they're trying to separate from that identity. Um, again, and I love the idea that anti has that the more of a price to be silent in the face of threat. I know Lennon doesn't feel good about self. It's clear by his present day outbursts. Yeah, I mean, there were certain people who were attacked, and they saw how we were attacked, and they jumped. They jumped. They jumped ship. True, that dude had a whole soundtrack for 2021, including the death to the AFW song. They were talking about Dr. Bombay, that guy who apologized. He apologized for that song. I mean, it took him years, but he apologized for the song that he made about me and my wife. And he apologized for it. I accepted his apology. And a few weeks ago, another content creator played that song. And Bombay was in the chat. Bombay did not reject it. He did not say, hey, don't play that song. He played it. And Bombay was cool with it. And again, this is the person that wanted clout, made that song in 2021 after Shakim lied about me having sex with students and he got a letter and all of this and that. And let me just say this too. This the Umar Johnson sector, and I'm gonna cam up a little bit. See, this is me. I got my nice hat on because I don't know, I can't take it off. Um, my thing is, man, you can talk about me all you want to. You can talk about my teeth. You can do all that. That okay. I'm hearing some crying and whining. That's Gigi. I'm like, what's going on? You can talk about me all you want to. That shaming stuff does not work on me. You can go somewhere else with that. You can really, you can really go somewhere else with that. I don't care about any of that stuff. Um, she said they need to go ahead. They're trying to regenerate the atrocities, playing that sexually harassing skit and other motives make it obvious. Right. And we're not going back to 2021. There's no going back to 2021, man. There's not going back to 2021. We're not having that. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for anti-Afro Reggie Lenon wouldn't have content because he was doing that kind of content on this channel. Right. He's still recycling old content. The apology was Lennon honor-esque and he forgave and everything make said he forgave talking shit about him, family. Same with the fake apology you got. Yeah, it was a fake apology because now and I look back at, I'm not gonna play that song, but I look back at that and it just and Shakim is back um in the space and um oh my god. Y'all don't hear Gigi. She is showing out. She's whining about something. I don't know. Um we're not going back to 2021. I will, if the harassment starts again, I will call the police. I got the police on speed dial, but we're not doing that. But that video and that song was very disgusting because it it was I couldn't I first heard that I was like, what in the world is going on? Because it was based on that lie by Shakim, and then Dempsey was speaking on it. And then they had Tiff Griff on there talking about me playing with dolls and all this stuff and having tea parties and I laugh at it now because Dempsey was talking about my wife watches YouTube and she's thinking about leaving me and I'm just like, what is he talking about? And you put this into a song and then have had my wife talking or pretend to be have my wife talking and my full name and my picture and the rainbow and I was like, "What is this?" Hold on, guys. Come here, Gigi. Yeah. What you crying about? Sorry, I had to interrupt this show. I had to call Gigi to see what she wanted. You just up there crying and whining. What you want? Huh? You want to say hi to people? You want to say hi? Come here. Okay. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Okay. Okay, look in the camera. Ah, oh, stop licking me in my face. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's, oh, okay. Okay. Okay, let's take it off. Ah. Okay, okay, I got you. I got you. Ah. Oh, Jesus. Okay, sweetie. Yeah. You want to say hi to everybody? Let me take this down. Come here. Come here. Yo. What are you fussing about? Where you go? Come here. Why you fussing? Okay. I think I'm losing control of the show. Uh they're trying to force Kip back to center stage and Chad T is on top. They're calling him gay. Yeah, it's weird. The subject who made the song has an extreme severe reaction whenever any non-fair comments are made toward him, even they're not harassment. No, she's back upstairs. What do you mean? What's going on? It's called being closeted. Yeah, it's okay. I don't want to talk about the people no more. So it all goes back to my time speaking on Umar and you know, activism, man. So I don't know how I got to that from MLK, but I just wanted to. I keep hearing people repeat the history of the space, and they're saying it all wrong. It did not happen the way some people are saying it. If you came after 2021 or 2022, you don't really know what's going on. But there are videos. There's a history of all of that, right? Um, yeah, this making AAS the big bad guy is just like really crazy. Um, if they can't get Kip defending lies, Chat T is on deck. Of course, they're going to see if you'll jump off in the thick of it, go back and forth with their bad intentions. And that's the thing I learned, Kip, is they don't care about the true story. They don't care about the truth. They already know people like Shakim is a habitual liar. They know these people lie. They don't care about that. They have bad intentions. They don't care about any of that. I learned that when I tried to defend myself against Shakim's lies. They don't care. It didn't matter. I mean, it still don't. It doesn't matter to a lot of these people. So I don't even, don't even. Yeah, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it. And that's what I like. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. You can make your little jokes and stuff like that. Because if I make a joke, the world's gonna end, right? How dare you? And I'm just again, we live in our best lives here, right? So I'm about to get up out of here. I thank y'all for watching, for listening. It seems I have a in the house that wants attention, and I need to wash my face too. Gigi, when the show affection. When I asked Photon if Dempsey should go to jail, he said no because he's really funny. I never saw or heard a single thing funny about Dempsey. No, but that's the thing, though. That's the thing that we're looking at the disconnect between this online space and reality. See, this disconnect. I never came into the space thinking about content. You know, for a lot of these people, this is just content. When they see people go like last night on Photon's show, the that Shakim guy, first thing he did was said when people are talking about me and all this yelling and teeth jokes. I mean, the teeth jokes is 2021. That's 2021 and get a proper haircut. That's 2021. That's just stupid stuff. But I know for a fact that if somebody was talking about me, he's dropping a joke in the chat about me. So what makes it that you can't be talked about, but you can talk about other people? And you said they really got off on it. Yeah, they really did. They really got off on all these attacks. They got off on the sexual attacks, the songs, the teeth jokes. None of them could ever survive the harassment targets on their families. But it was funny when it was done to others. It was all yeah, it was truly all funny when it's done to other people. And they can constantly speak on you and all this, but if you speak on them, like I said before, all hell's gonna break loose, but I don't want to speak on them. I don't know if you noticed, but I've like been doing different things on this channel. And this live stream is going to go members only pretty soon too. I'm not going to keep live. Yeah, I might edit this. I might edit this live and just keep the certain part of it. But that's the history. That's the history of it all. What you see after 2021 is a response. You see a response to all this madness that happened. These people lost their effing minds in 21. A lot of these people, a lot of these people start making attack videos. They lost their damn minds. And then when we start striking back in 2022, because remember in 2022, I said no effing more. And people thought it was a joke. Yeah, because again, if you want to harass people, don't do it, but do it within your group. If you want to so-called roast people within your group. I won't be anywhere if when the host allows chat harassment. They come to spaces only because we're there. Some house love that, not me. Yeah, I'm not gonna be around for that. I got other things. I mean, I don't know all that yelling and getting the mic to see who's louder and all of this. I'm like, what is this? That's stupid. Yeah, I don't understand. That's entertainment. But see, a lot of stuff leaks off. And I keep hearing the guy Shaquem Harris say, I'm mad because he called my job. No, he didn't just call my job. See, that's the thing that people fail to realize. He didn't just call the job. What happened was the end of January of 2021, probably like January like 24th or 5th, something like that. He had done so many videos about Lennon Honor, attacking Lennon Honor, family. I was like, wow, nobody's saying anything about this man. Jesus, this is crazy. And so then it was known that Shaquem was selling money spells, and he had this university that people said they were ripping him off. And I was like, wow, he's ripping off Nigerians. I was like, wow, this is what this guy is doing. And I interviewed Miss Deborah, and I did a video. The video was like it wasn't even like talking bad about him. And the next day, he does a video talking about how I'm a bad professor. And I knew something was up because he was on Rate My Professor. And then right after that, he got an email from a student saying that I had sexually had an affair with them and assaulted them. And then he did that video. Dempsey ran with it. A lot of people in the sector ran with it. They started mocking me, and then in February, that's when that TMK Media, Bombay, he took that video. He took those lies that Shaquille made and made into a whole song, right? And by March or April, Shaquille then takes it up a notch and calls the school. That's when he called my employer. Before he called the employer, Flacco and Dempsey were leading the campaign to and they did contact my employer before Shaquem actually did. They contact my employer asking why haven't they done anything about me sexually assaulting students. They called my division chair, and they were pretty much ignored. But then when Shaquem called the job in March or April, I forgot it was either March or April, and not only called the job, but he filed a report, a false, it was a sexual assault report or something. It was something, and made up students' names, made his made his name up, called himself Shaquem White. So no, it wasn't just call, and he did it. He called on a live stream. He was making money from Dempsey. So no, I mean, again, that's the history of that space. And it all started because I spoke out about Umar Johnson and people were seeking clout, right? Yeah. And there we go. But no, we're not going back to that time and place. No. Of course, none of that of what they dish out is ever allowed in their chat. So one who accept that agrees to be a punching bag, target of abuse, not me ever. No, no. The nerve speaking on Deborah, who was a professor, never retirement. But it's clear Fub's anger, hostility, explosive energy is scamming his target toward those much older than him. Yeah, and as I said before, he start the harassment again, the police will be contacted. I don't care about that shaming, that talking about people's appearance or looks, because God knows if people start talking about him like that, he'll start crying about it. And that's a fact. These people cannot handle what they dish out. Wow. So I'm about to get up out of here. I'm feeling some kind of way. Yeah, especially with that with that TMK media allowing his song to be played again. I mean, and I think maybe he's mad because I did that that Godfather Baby Christmas song. But I mean, he was making, he was targeting me as well. But you can't, if you make an apology about something and you go back and they want me back in the mix. No, I'm not going back in the mix. I'm enjoying my new music. I'm enjoying stuff I'm doing and you know so I'm back doing my own stuff. Yeah. Isn't he supposed to be married with kids? Yeah, I don't know, but he made that song too easy. Yeah. He made that song was too it sounded too personal. It That song was too personal. Just like that letter that Shakim was reading from the student. And again, the entertainment, it's all about entertainment. And I keep hearing like the newer people when they do these videos and they're talking about this space and things that are happening and how we want to take people's jobs and this and this and that. And I'm like, you just don't know. You just don't know. I don't want to take anybody's job. I don't want to harm anybody's livelihood. But in turn, I don't want that to happen to me. And I don't believe that it's just YouTube because you can do a Google search and you go right to these videos where people are claiming all this stuff about you. Well, they have tried to make contact to your employer. They will send stuff to your employer in a heartbeat. I mean, two federal lawsuits have my name in it. One, would you call it a federal lawsuit? It's a what was that? The Copyright Claim Board. I say it's federal. And then the Catherine Brown thing. I mean, are you serious? They really tried. They've tried a lot. All because I was speaking out against Umar Johnson and became a name. It became a name that you can attack, a name that if you attack, you get clout for it. If that wasn't true, then there shouldn't be any videos about me, and there should be any speaking on me that was not true. Because if you notice, I don't speak on people unless they speak on me until after I get tired of hearing them speak on me. Right. Don't know who these people are, don't care, and they're not answering any of their questions. Yeah. And all again is because anti-Afro spoke on Umar Johnson. And she didn't speak on other people until wasn't the summer of 2021? It wasn't until the summer, really. I mean, she spoke on Dempsey sometimes, but but other than that, it wasn't until that whole 2021 was crazy because that's when these people lost their minds. People like a Let Me See Your Transcript and the Napa Yankee and Eyes Antonia. They were all making content about us, just really nasty content. For what? It happened. And that's why I retired Rev G because I'm like, I came in here 17, been 9 years. I'm not your boogeyman. All right. Well, let me get out of here. But I thank y'all for watching. I thank y'all for listening. I love y'all. Thank y'all for y'all support of me and my channel and my family and the words of encouragement. Even like, the cups of coffee that you have supplied me over the years has been amazing. And I appreciate it. The quick trip and the McDonald's coffee have come into I don't and just to let you know now I'm mixing um decaffeinated and caffeine and the regular coffee together. I'm trying to cut down on my caffeine. I don't even know who the any of these subjects are. Right. Though I don't. Total and complete lies. The one subject not for you. And he wouldn't have me on that page or his page. But I never been that page. Oh yeah. A lot of these folks, we don't know. We don't know them. Did you get a package? Yeah, that's why Gigi was barking. There's the package. Why dogs don't like delivery people? The other day, Gigi was just barking and barking and barking. The other night, we're like, "Why are you barking?" And so normally, she comes to the door and start barking, and I'm nosy, and so we open the door and we look, and as we open the door, there's this big deer. Deer was huge in our front yard, looking at us like, well, "What's up?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's why you barking. Did you smell it or hear it or what?" And it was huge deer. It's like, what's going on? I've never had a dog before, people. I always like cats. Never had a dog, and it's interesting having this little dog in our not she's not little, this dog in our house with so much personality. But I thank y'all for watching. I thank y'all for listening. Who knows when there'll be another live stream? But I thank y'all for coming to this one. And with that being said, Anti says, I never go to spaces where I don't want to be and avoid hosts who cave to pressure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the truth. So yeah, if that's the way that Photon show is gonna be, I'm not gonna I won't even be in there. And 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 to the person that's mad because I made a song, um, let me see if I have it. Somebody got mad because I made a song based on what they were talking about. I'm not gonna play it because they want me to play it. Somebody made a song and said that somebody had long D energy. I'm like, that is weird. And so I put it to a song. That's not homophobic. You said it. I didn't say it. You said, oh boy had long D energy. I'm like, what? Well, where'd that come from? Oh, when was this song? Oh, long D energy. That was a few years ago. You remember that song? Um, that was a song. Somebody was talking about polite. He said polite had long D energy. Somebody said long. He said, oh gosh, if I play it, I don't want to play it because that's what he wants. He keeps bringing my name up. Yeah, you remember that. You remember Long D Energy. Um, he keep like, I don't even want to talk. I don't even like talk to the guy. I don't know what he talking about. He's always bringing my name up, and he's just weird like that. Where's that song at? Oh, here it is. Let me see if I can. I mean, and you can be a judge. You can be a judge for yourself. I mean, he said it, and I just put it on track. Mm, okay, you see it? Yeah. There's this. There's. Let me play it.
That's a long dick nigga, man. He probably over here probably man. Look at polite until that's a long dick nigga, man. He probably over here probably man. See that shit. I was like, look at
Okay, so let's go back. So he's saying that I'm homophobic, but if you listen closely to what he said,
look at polite until that's a long dick nigga, man.
so he said he could look at Polite and tell that he's a long blank N word. Dro didn't say that. Dro didn't put that in
He
here.
probably over here probably man. Look at polite until that's a long dick nigga, man. He probably over here probably man. See that shit. I was like, hold
Like I said, you say it, I'll put it on track. You say it, I'll put it on music. That's what I did. You said he had a long D energy. And the crazy part about that, that was when he got accused of of sexually assaulting that young girl. You know, that polite dude. And then you make that song talking about he had long D. You can look at him and see that he has long D energy. That's not nothing homophobic about that. You said it. Yo, that's what I'm like. These people, man. All right, let me. Yes, what I'm saying, dude. I didn't say it. You said it. All these sports salesmen are so obsessed with the meat packages. Right, right. But that's a good spot to end this. Uh, I don't like being lied on. Don't be calling me homophobic when you talking about somebody. You can look at them and see they got long D energy. I mean, cool, but don't get mad at me when I put it on wax. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. Peace, blessings. Hold on, more calculation energy into today. Okay, see, I should have got. All right, let's get out of here. So now she's in the backyard barking. All right, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. Peace, blessings. We're out.